Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Democratic View. And I am the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano. And now that the campaigns are over, I begin to address some of the issues that are very important in our town. And today I have with me a woman who is going to tell us a great deal about something that seems to act as the Bible of our town, and that's our comprehensive plan, and her name is Deb Foster, who is not only a spokesperson for many of the issues that are confronting us, she's also an educator and a colleague, and that's very important to us.
Teacher, right here.
You bet.
So I am.
I absolutely agree. First of all, I'd like to know a little bit about you, because although I've met you on many occasions, I've never said, Deb, where were you born and raised?
I guess that's the question. I'll catch it and throw it right back. I was born in a little town upstate, the only town in the United States totally on an Indian reservation. We paid taxes to the Indians. It's on the Allegheny River, and the Senecas were our tribe. And its name is Salamanca. It's south of Buffalo.
Oh, my God.
And I was born on the following date: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where we'll start.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Yeah. I did a whole paper in college on that experience.
Must have been an interesting place to grow up.
Was.
So you knew Indians on a personal basis?
Totally. And their life, you know, we were on the reservation. George Washington deeded the land on 1 mile on either side of the Allegheny River to the Seneca Nation. And it was a great experience. Went to school with him, played with him.
How come you were there? What were your mother and father?
Oh, who's ever asked about my mom and dad? Heart of the earth. That was their hometown.
I was their hometown.
That was their, yep. My dad went out and went to the war. He was in the Navy as an officer. Mom was a homemaker. I have a sister, Pam, up in Boston. Went to Salamanca High School. Dad was inherited into the family a business, which was self-run. It was not a chain. It was a furniture store and a mortuary.
Oh, gee, that is a combination.
Well, no, that was a combination then, because it was started back in the 1800s. And there was a big connection. It was up high. I remember running through it with my sister that had bedspreads, mattresses, sofas, and then the coffins. And the idea was in the 1800s that furniture makers made coffins.
Sure.
So he wasn't too happy about this, but he was trained to be a mortician. And he was not the personality for it, but it was part of the job. Yeah.
Well, I certainly didn't think I was going to get that kind of an interesting story, let me tell you.
I had embalming fluid in my garage, so there.
Oh, jeez. And so you went to high school there, but where'd you go to college?
I went undergraduate wanted to be a physical education and health teacher. So the state university system, as you know, is a great system. And one of the best schools was Cortland. And my physical education teacher had gone there. And so that's where I went. I had a ball, met some of my best friends. And then I went to graduate school at Boston University and got my health degree.
As a matter of fact, the New York school university system is probably next to or on an equal with the California
I was
system.
going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know during a period of time, I remember reading an article in the Times about how many people we graduated
Yep.
who went on to greater and course and with high SAT scores and who they accepted. And so we have quite a wonderful system.
And the beauty of it was, of course, this was back in the day, I guess.
Yes.
But it was $5,000 to go. And I got a quality education.
I know.
$5,000 a year, but still.
Yeah,
what it
well,
is
I
now.
know. Well, all of my children went to state schools
Yeah.
as well, because that's all I could afford, number
Yeah.
one. And even those, at that time, it was reasonable. It wasn't 5,000, but it was reasonable.
My
enough.
dad was a little upset with me for that choice, though, because I got accepted at Penn State, and he wanted to see the Nittany Lions play.
Oh, I see. I got
I wanted to go to a smaller pond to start out.
But I do know somebody in physical education who also became a teacher who went to Cortland.
Yeah.
One of my friends.
Some of my kids that I've had have gone off to Cortland.
Yeah.
It's a very good school.
What made you want to be a teacher of physical education?
Well, I just really enjoyed sports. There wasn't much for girls then. I guess you could call me a tomboy. I would always grow up and play with the guys because it was more fun. You know, I used to play football and wear the spaghetti strainer that my mom let me have as a helmet. I looked like a World War I.
Called a colander.
Yeah. with a
Scuola
thing.
macaron in Italian.
All I had to do was lower my head with those legs. And I had shoulder pads that I strapped with rubber bands that were washcloths. I really didn't think we'd be talking about this, but I just enjoyed sports. And it was frustrating in a way because, like in basketball, and we're talking about the mid-'60s, early '60s now, girls were only allowed to dribble 3 times, and then you had to stop.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah, you're probably a great basketball player. You've got the height. And so there were like play days maybe, or I won a foul shooting contest, but there was no athletics like there is now. So,
Well, in those days also, I will tell you that girls couldn't do a lot of things. For
Yeah.
instance, I wanted to be a politician and
Yeah.
a lawyer.
yeah,
And there was no way. In American University where I went, Washington College of Law, there was one woman
Yeah.
in that law school, and her father was a judge.
well, we've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God that's changed.
Yeah.
So, so after college, you did what?
One of my best friends in college had an aunt down here. She called her Aunt Caddy Noon, big family from Sag Harbor. And we heard you could make some money in the Hamptons, waitressing. So that's what we did, and we never left. She taught at Sag Harbor at Pearson for over 30 years. And I was at Springs for 34.
Wow.
We got our jobs a week before school started.
Yes.
We put a little dime then in the phone, and she called in Sag Harbor, and I called Spring School, and they said, we'll take you. 'Cause they didn't have teachers then, so. It was the best decision I ever made. I fell in love with this place,
Yes.
with the families. My best friends are here.
Look, I'm a Springs resident. You don't have to tell
Yeah.
me. I absolutely adore where I live.
Wouldn't
Every-
change anything.
Every once in a while, I drive around and I say, well, that's not, maybe I could live in this. No. First of all, I have a nice neighborhood. I have kids that play on my street, play basketball. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it could be a pain
Girls
in
are
the neck.
dribbling more than 3 times.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, how did you get involved in politics?
Another good question. It started out that I got involved in planning first because I had this little Honda 50cc, and I used to enjoy going out on the trails because every place was an adventure, just gorgeous.
course.
So I would go out on these historic trails, and at one point I went to one of my favorite places where I used to climb a tree and look out on Gardner's Bay, and it was blocked off. And there was this big sign that said IPX construction, stay away. So that's when I learned about subdivisions and private property rights and that some of these beautiful areas could be developed and people had a right to develop them. So what I thought was, I better learn about this, because it's where you put the development and how you do it and how many people that's going to affect the character and the natural resources of this beautiful place. The thing that people need to grasp, I think, is that this place is finite. There is nowhere else to go. You could go up to Olean near Salamanca and spread out to Killbuck and Allegheny. What we see is what we get. We're at the end of the line, as they say in Montauk. And if we have too many people in this area that at some places is a mile wide, with only one source of drinking water, we have our sole source drinking water, that goes, we're gone. With traffic that can't be shuttled off to other places, we've lost it. And so each decision that you make that brings in more people is going to affect that balance, because you can hit the wall. And we're just about there now. We're about 92% built out according to the present zoning map. Still to be developed, about another 8%. And already you can feel we're getting too tight for the pants, you know, that feeling. Yes. And when people say, perfect example is what's going on now with that condominiums that are out in Amagansett. We didn't zone for that. We are not anticipating that in our population. And it could land 4 different places with hundreds of luxury condos. We have not planned for the approximately 870 car trips coming out onto Montauk Highway. We haven't planned for the poor Amagansett volunteers to take care of seniors that might be having some health problems. We cannot do the extras anymore. We have to stay within the constraints and the framework of the comprehensive plan. And what that is literally is a blueprint.
So, first of all, you've hit on about 5 or 6 of the most pressing problems facing us.
Well, they're right in front of us.
You know, I mean, starting with water to drink, portable water. First of all, that's the new oil, the new gold of the whole world.
Exactly.
Not just East Hampton.
Exactly.
Well, we have 2 aquifers in Long Island, and that water that percolates down to that source is...
That's all we've got.
That's right.
There's no underground river.
That's right.
There's no desalinization.
That's right.
And if that gets polluted, you know, there might be enough of it. They have done some studies where we might not run out of water because we're getting it from percolation, from precipitation. But if we pollute it, it's like a lens. It's like a convex lens. Where are we going to get our water from? I mean, this would be a ghost town.
That's exactly it.
Or
That's it. You
the
know, I keep
taxes
saying it.
to have it brought in.
If they don't start doing something about it, my house is going to be on the market before everybody else realizes. But tell me about this comprehensive plan, because that is what I have heard so much about, yet I know so little about it.
In fact, being the teacher that I am in my soul, one of the things that I want to do now that I'm retired, and I'm looking forward to working with this new town board that respects and has been involved in the making of this town comprehensive plan, is come out with a series of information booklets or go online and have chapters that explain to people, and literally 7th and 8th grade talk, what this is about, who we are, how things are interrelated and affect each other. Because an informed public is the only way to preserve this place.
In a democracy, you get what you deserve.
You cannot, I've been at this 40 years, you cannot turn your back on it, because it's beautiful. We are within a populated corridor of millionaires per square inch that can buy their way out here with a finite resource. And the only thing that will stop overdevelopment are our people.
That's right. That's the only thing that's going to stop Nassau County. Now, I want to ask you, I mean, it seems to me that I was a Fire Islander for 35 years, and sort of around the beginning of the 80s, we began to hear about the Hamptons. You know, I don't know if it was the Steven Spielberg move out here that brought the attention,
We have a bunch of them.
but that was the beginning of that. So when did this start to become something that people were going to invest time and talent and develop this?
I can tell you the day.
Do.
I was appointed to the planning board in 1980. And we were just starting to be discovered then.
Yes.
And this surge, it was like a tidal wave of subdivisions and large remaining open space, Hither Woods, Grace Estate, Barcelona, farmland, and condos were coming out one right after the other. And we had a comprehensive plan then, but it was done in the 60s, and between the 60s and the 80s, there was a real change in the tools that you could use to preserve water and preserve your natural resources. But that was not in that comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan from the 60s would have allowed 125,000 people to live here. So we were not ready.
Oh, God.
Didn't save any farmland, allowed condos on the dunes, condos on our 3 Mile Harbor, Northwest Harbor. It was all came from the 50s and 60s. You remember, that was just a big suburban
Sure.
development time.
Absolutely, I remember it
Building
well.
is good for your tax base.
Yes.
Come to find out, people cost more than the taxes they are spending.
That's right.
And at that point, when I was on the planning board, we were going to meetings that would literally go to the next day. There'd like be 20 applications in front of us, of huge amounts of land, and no preserving of the open space. So one day I came back in February from a great vacation in Cancun, and I learned that the town board at that time, from the opposite party, if I may add, abolished the planning department.
Oh, have I heard about that? Yes, yes, indeed.
It's like saying to a town that was under prohibition, let the good times flow. And it just got totally out of control. I mean, I was practically in tears after some meetings. So, once again, the people. There was an election that we elected the first woman on Long Island, the first Democrat on Long Island, little woman from Arkansas, you might know her, Judith Hope.
Yes, I do.
Stepped up, and even we were aghast, but what did she run on? She ran on the idea that we're not going to say no to development, but we're going to slow down and put it in the right place with the right pace. And that, because there were a lot of Republicans around then, that resonated with people. And they were not happy about the abolishment of the planning department, because it was so obvious. Come on in, developers. You know,
Yes.
we're on the auction block.
Yes.
So that's how we got the first comp plan. And I was the point person on that because I was appointed chair. And at that point, the planning board came up with the comprehensive plan. And then 20 years later, it was time again. But that is what the Florida developers with the gold chains and the long limo, and I'm not kidding, they would come to planning board meetings, they disappeared after that. And it did get better. And the community, once again, taxed themselves to buy these open spaces. Bought the Grace Estate. Voted in the middle of winter, Amagansett Firehouse, to tax themselves $6 million out of their pockets, East Hampton taxpayers, to buy it, to preserve it. That's their history. That's where East Hampton started. 11 families started right on the Grace Estate as settlers. And it just went from there. Then we got people that were interested in other levels of government of helping us. So the state would come in and help us buy Barcelona. We got federal money out at Hither Woods, and it just started to fall in place. We went back to the people again. We're losing our farmland. They voted again 3-1. Let's pay for it. Let's buy the development rights. So it doesn't get better than this. I'm working on a book, actually, called The Story Behind the Story, the working title, to save
Well, that's
East
a great
Hampton.
one, title,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and I'm dedicating it to the people. I get choked up about this, to this community who
Tell
have
me
said,
something.
not here, not now.
How many people worked with you, and how did those people get tapped to do this kind of thing?
They just came out of nowhere at the right time, at the right place. It was almost serendipitously unreal that we would get a woman from Arkansas who, her only experience really was organizing the Hampton Classics, the horse show, step up and get elected to this town. We had an attorney that was a surfer turned preppy with a mind that was hired by NASA after he left, Russell Stein, that rewrote the whole code. It's just that one person after another, this was a community effort, came up at the right time and just knew what to do. And it was a struggle to the mat. We were sued a dozen times. I personally was sued for a civil lawsuit, $6 million.
Oy.
And when I was served, they would go into like my second grade gym class with the blue paper and say, you have to appear at a deposition, and the kids would start to cry. They're going to take you away, Mrs.
Oh, my
Foster.
God.
I mean, that's what it was like.
Oh, my God.
And I'd have to say to them, no, it's okay, kids. It's going to be all right. I'm going to be okay. We won every single lawsuit. Why? Because of what's called a master plan. And it had to, by law, be fair to people that were property owners, prove scientifically why it's important to save these resources. Again, it helped that we were at the tip of an island, and this was it.
Right.
But we also couldn't be exclusionary, and we had to provide areas, and we did, court-tested, for affordable housing. And I think that is our next focus. We have, as you know, the CPF fund, brilliant idea, where we don't have to tax ourselves anymore.
Right.
It just keeps coming into our coffers.
Hey, I contributed.
So did I. 42 million is in there.
I know 42 million is in there.
And we have a whole study that, it's a volunteer program, that property owners can use to say, here, buy my development rights, I want to sell my land. They get an appraised value, and we can't go under that or over that. And so that's kind of taking care of itself. What we're losing, the resource, I call them my kids. Kids that I've taught that are 20 and 30.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, all I hear is senior housing, but it's more than senior housing.
They're my kids.
We gotta start making housing that also applies to the people who are the workers here, who have the small businesses, who do the construction work, and they need a place to live too.
Here's what's interesting, which is why I want to go educational with this. We have 11 opportunities for people with affordable units that I don't think they know about. So I personally am going to work to get information on LTV and online, because there are some, and never enough, but when I was on the town board, we created 300 to 400 units for local housing for my kids. And it has to do with applying, and we help you get a mortgage, and there's a drawing, and we give them the lot, lease it for 99 years, they build their house.
Yes.
And there are opportunities out there. We have affordable apartments for your in-laws or for your 26-year-old that's still living at home. I don't think people know about that, because the last administration did this much about affordable housing for our local kids.
I
In
know.
fact, where those condos are going, they are getting rid of an affordable housing overlay. So they're saying, rich luxury people that are 55, you want to come in here and have a good time in the Hamptons? You have precedence. Oh, you could have had 34 homes here for local people? Get rid of it. Drives me insane. But things might be changing in January.
I think things are changing in
And I
January.
hope to make a difference there.
And I'm going to lead the parade.
There you go. I'll be right behind you. I was a cheerleader. Couldn't be on a sports team.
Yeah,
So I was a
but
cheerleader.
I mean, it is amazing. There are, and you know, you talk about the needs of senior citizens as well. You know, I just had my knee done. I cannot drive. How do you think I get back and forth to physical therapy and to get my blood test for Coumadin? I call the town, and the town picks me up.
Those are the needs we need to
I mean, and that's, you know what? That's going to continue. And those are the things we have to take into consideration as well.
We do have a high population over there.
Yes, yes, indeed.
And in a study that we did while I was on the town board, it showed that most of our seniors want to stay in their home.
Absolutely.
But they need services.
Yes, indeed.
That's a perfect example.
Yes.
We have, the home service that comes in, Meals on Wheels. That's where we should focus.
Yes, I agree.
Not
I agree.
condos that cost $500,000 to $1.5 million. That was a travesty, and I hope they're gone.
Well, I look forward to you doing more of this, and if
That's
you
what I'm
need
gonna
help,
do.
I will
Thank you.
volunteer
Yeah.
to be someone, because I want to learn more about
We
this.
need to educate people about this.
Indeed, and let me tell you, I'm not good reading online, so I want something face-to-face where
No
I can
problem.
then ask questions about. So I'm looking forward to you being the cheerleader of the comprehensive plan
I'd
and
love to.
leading the way for us,
And
because
there's also other people we could bring in that are just as
Absolutely.
knowledgeable. That's a
Absolutely.
great commitment. I'd love to do it.
yes, you got me, honey.
Okay,
Because
okay.
I really believe, look, I got to tell you what Lee Koppelman said. He said if I had to do it all over again, I would buy up every empty lot. True?
As long as across the street is an affordable home for somebody. Balance,
Balance is the key word.
right now.